It's all right.
Can you make my hair look like this?
Oh, man, what you want to make your hair look like that for?
See, that's the problem with y'all today. Y'all don't know nothing.
Will you let the man tee you off? You yap worse than 6 barbers.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Your Barber podcast. I'm your host, Matt Balot, a.k.a. Matty Blades on Instagram. We're up to episode number 42. If it's your first time joining us, the Your Barber podcast is the show that sheds light on barbers and to let, outside people that aren't in barbering industry, understand we're regular people and we deal with stuff like everyone else. So we try to relate and inspire other barbers as well. We share the story of our barber guest, and today's episode is no different. So let's go ahead and give a warm welcome, a warm Arizona welcome. There he is. Welcome to the show, Chris. How's it going tonight, man?
All right, man. How are you?
Another late night edition.
Yeah.
I'm going to do
It's
my
still
best.
early out here, man.
What's up? I'm going to do my best to not burp all over this. I just ate like a bunch of Ethiopian food. That's right. I'm cultured, Chris. I'm cultured. How's your night going, man? Or evening? We're on a 3-hour difference here.
Yeah. It's I think like 6:30. Yeah, almost 6:40.
6:30. Okay. So yeah, I was introduced to Chris through John Gould.
Yeah.
John Gould was on, I think it was like episode 36. I'll double check that, but he referred you my way and everying.
Yeah, so for sure.
Definitely appreciate John on that one.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, wait a minute, like, do you know Nico's Barbershop? I was like, yeah. That's my guy Rajiv. I graduated barber school with him, and I had him on the podcast too. And he's like, dude, I know someone that works in his shop from Rochester. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Me and John, we go way back. I think elementary school. Honestly, we went to elementary school together, and then middle school, and then when I was in the 8th grade, I moved to a different town. But yeah, I believe it was his grandfather literally lived like right around the corner from my dad. So all the neighborhood kids hung out together, rode the bus together, all that. So I've known John for years.
Were you guys playing street hockey, a little roller skate, or like a little?
No, just getting into mischief, man. Just all sorts of wild stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, you moved around. You moved then.
And I feel like I've been all over. So
yeah,
I was born in Greece. I was there until.
Get out of here.
Greece, New York. Yeah, I was there until.
Greece, New York. Okay. I'm like, wait. I missed this during the thing.
No, okay. Greece, New York, and then from there I moved to Gates when I was in, I want to say 3rd or 4th grade. I was in Gates until 8th grade, and then moved back to Greece in 8th grade, and then 9th grade moved to Henrietta, and that's where I graduated from.
Okay.
And then from there, I was there all throughout college. And then when I think I was 21, I moved to Atlanta. I lived there for, we won't say I lived there because it was like 3-4 weeks, ran out of money, moved back home to mom. So
yeah, that happens.
It is what it is. But
you rolled the dice. You did it at least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then from there, moved back to mom's, stayed at mom's for a while, then just moved, stayed in Henrietta for a little bit, moved back to Greece with my girl, bought a house, and we were at the house for about 2-3 years before we decided to move out here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shoot, dog. Okay. But yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Before we get any further into that, though, I wanted to get into my opening segment called Just an Observation.
Okay.
And that's what it is. It's about moving around, rebuilding, and especially as a barber. I've told my story on here plenty of times about moving around. I moved from West Virginia to Arizona to Pennsylvania, now to Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm here to stay. And I mean, just walk me through kind of moving, like starting over as a barber. And
So
yeah. Well, first off, I mean, how long were you a barber before you made your first move as a barber?
so honestly, like when I was back in New York, I was only cutting part time. So it was like three. I'd cut like Monday, Wednesday, Friday for like 3-4 hours, afternoon, evening, and then Saturday, and then because I had a full time job, and I wasn't in the position to pursue barbering, full time at that point in time because I had rent and all sorts of bills and responsibilities,
Right.
whatever. So it was initially it was just extra money for me, and then I was working as a juvenile corrections officer for the state of New York.
Okay.
And then that kind of cut my
Which can be
time. What's
that's a
that?
that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure you got
yeah,
some
yeah.
good benefits with it and
Yeah, for
everything.
sure. But so like there was a lot of mandatory overtime. So like
Right.
that kind of took away from, me being in the shop because I couldn't really tell people, hey, I'm gonna be here Monday from, 4 to 7 or whatever. Because I didn't know. People call off, people get sick, whatever the case may be. I end up stuck there and I can't have my phone, inside the facility, whatever. So I
Yeah.
can't reach out to people and be like, hey, I'm not gonna be there.
Right.
So that kind of I kind of fell back a little bit, you know. So then when COVID hit, it got real bad, like, the regulations and stuff in New York. And so it got
Yeah.
to the point where it was like, first they shut us down, like the barbershops and all that.
Yeah.
And then when they let us open back up, the regulations and stuff, it was like, I hit my boss at the time and I was like, it's not even like worth me coming in, because they want us to buy disposable capes and all sorts of stuff. And it's like, I'm be losing money. Money. I'm not making that much as it is doing this. It's just like a side hustle for me right now.
Yeah.
So, I kind of just was like, hey, I'm gonna come get my stuff and, we'll figure it out once, all this stuff kind of clears up or whatever. And
Yeah.
none of us knew it was gonna, last as long as it did.
Yeah. It was like, we'll circle back in a couple of weeks. All
Yeah.
right, well, couple more weeks. It's just kept.
Right. But so um and then I ended up, getting enough money put away to where, like it was starting to get we started talking about and joking. We'd always joked about, coming out here because my lady's parents are out here. They've been out here for a while.
Nice.
So, she wanted to get back close to, her parents and all that. And, I wanted to get out of Rochester. And so, but it's so expensive and, it takes a lot to move just, I mean, across town, let alone across the country, you know what I mean?
Let's talk about that a little bit.
So,
Dude,
yeah,
I
so,
think it was
I
like
mean,
2 grand minimum just to get
man,
like a moving truck that will
so,
hold my car.
yeah, so, I ended up getting enough money put away and, I was just getting torched with mandatory overtime because,
Mm,
you know, people calling off, because they're sick and whatnot. And then, like, it was a minimum 2 weeks, with pay. So
yeah,
it's like, you know, uh, we ended up being super short, yada, yada, yada. So I was working doubles, 3, 4 days a week. I go in at 10:30 and knock it out, 10:30 p.m. and knock it out until 2:30 p.m. the next day.
right.
So it's like then I gotta go pick my kid up from daycare,
I was gonna say
go
you already
home.
had your son at this point.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay,
So my son was born prior to COVID really hitting the fan. So
gotcha.
November of 2019, my son was born. So I think it
Yeah,
was, if I'm not mistaken, it was like right when things like started to, get a little iffy, and
right.
then obviously shit hit the fan. But um, so yeah, it was just I'd get out, go get my son, go home, eat, shower, and then hope to get like 3-4 hours of solid sleep before going back. And it's like it takes a toll on you, not only mentally, but,
Right.
physically. And it's just, I was drained, bro. And like,
It sours everything.
yeah. And like, even it started messing with, like, not only was I missing out on stuff at home, but like, it started to mess with me because, I was so drained when I was home that it was just like, I don't want to do nothing. Like, my
Yeah.
kid wants to play, and I'm just like, ugh,
Right.
and I was like, I can't, this ain't it. The
Yeah.
money's good, but I'm sacrificing like a lot,
Right.
So finally, we had enough put away, and it was like, I looked at my lady and I was like, hey, if you want to do this, let's do it now. You know what I mean? And at first she was like, don't play with my emotions like that, thought I was.
Because she's been wanting to go. Okay.
So we'll put a pin in that. So she had lived out here.
Okay.
I believe when she was in the 10th grade, her family moved out here. And then, she was pissed because, like, all, middle of high school, all her friends
Yes.
are back
Terrible
home.
time. Yeah.
So she was like, when I graduate, I'm moving back to Rochester. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So she ended up graduating and moving back. And then we had some mutual friends together, and, we were working at the same spot. So that's how we, met up. But yeah, her family was already out here. So, she was just like super excited. She was like, couldn't wait.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we finished what we were doing on the house. I had to have the roof. I was having the roof redone, had a new central air put in, just tons of stuff. And on top of all the money we had already put into the house in the 2 years we were there. Packed up everything, hired the movers. They came, and then I had two dogs at the time. So I didn't want to put them on a plane, and my son was so young, and I didn't know, we didn't know how he would be on a plane. So it was like, we're not going to put him up there. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, I guess we're gonna have to rent a car and, do this the old school way. So yeah, so we
Yeah.
shipped all the furniture out here, shipped the cars out here.
Oh,
Rent,
that's even more expensive, I feel
bro.
like.
So listen, bro. It
'Cause I
was.
looked at that first and I was like, okay, no.
It still pains me to talk about this, but so packing this stuff in general and having that moved was probably 9,500. We're talking just like all our belongings.
Yeah, I said $2,000 earlier. You're like,
Yeah,
this
two
way.
grand. Yeah, $2,000 per tote.
Right. Yeah, dude. I
So
mean, we
yeah,
had a
that was about.
15-foot truck and just my
Nah, so
car on
we
a car
hired, like,
carrier. That was
I
it.
forget what the name of the company was, but we hired, like, a cross country,
2 men in a truck.
nah, that's the company that's out here.
That's coming out there too. It's in
Yeah.
Arizona. I worked
So
for him for 2 days in barber school.
out here?
Yeah.
You're
Dude,
insane.
you wanna talk about desperate times calling for
Insane.
desperate measures.
Man, listen. So, yeah, so that was, like, $9,500 just, like, for all our belongings and stuff. And then the cars, to ship the 2 cars was another, like, 3,500. So then I'm like, "Okay, now I gotta rent a car." And none of these, like, Enterprise, Hertz, none of them wanna let you rent a one-way rental to where, like, you
Yeah.
take it from one
Too
spot.
many drug mules out there.
Yeah, I would just whatever, bro.
I used
So,
to work in car
yeah,
rentals.
right. So thankfully I forget who we used. I think it was Hertz.
Mm,
So, because all of them wanted you to drive, to return it where you rented it from. I was like,
yeah,
"Bro, I'm moving to Arizona. Like, I'm not gonna drive this to Arizona, then turn around and bring it back." Like,
right. It's like,
so
"You got something, you
thankfully,
got a better idea, I
yeah,
guess?"
right. Thankfully, finally, I found a location that would let me, and I rented a big ass Expedition. So it was me and my lady in the front, my son in the back, and the 2 dogs all the way in the back, and we hit the
Gas
road.
guzzling through Texas, armadillos.
Yeah, man. So,
Dude,
like,
we
the
got a
first.
flat tire in the middle
Oh
of
my
Texas.
god.
Dude, we had
Oh,
to call roadside twice. Wait,
no.
that was dude, I did this trip so many
That
times.
would've been a fucking nightmare.
Dude, it was, No, I think the one where we moved back east to PA, that one was the one that like shed some years off my life. Like we had a tire go flat. Like the very first night, we're not even out of Arizona yet. It's nightfall. We're driving by some federal prison. There's sparks flying behind behind the truck. I'm like, oh, get the. We're not even out yet.
This is like a bad horror movie.
Furious? What the? And my car was sliding off of the ramp that was holding it because I learned my lesson the first time. I wasn't doing that car carrier shit. I was like putting two wheels on the road.
That scares me because it's like, do y'all get trained? I seen one today and I was like, I just had that random thought. Like, I wonder if they like show these people how to do this.
They don't.
Just like, here's the trailer. Good luck.
No, that's literally, I've told this story. I was like 21-year-old set me up with the rental. A day before they cancel my 16-footer, give me a 26-footer with my car behind it. And then they just try to drop it off. Hey, take it easy. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, right.
Should I get a tutorial on this thing? Or you just going to let me ruin my whole life here?
Yeah, man.
And then they didn't tell me that you got to check the straps every 20 miles. And I'm like, you see where we're going? And so, yeah, night one, the straps are loosening up and my car's sliding down the ramp and the ramp's starting to skip and bounce off the road. That's what those sparks were.
I would have lost it.
Yeah, so no, I was like, oh my God. The amount of times on this trip back east, I said, what fuck?
So, because we had the two dogs,
yeah,
we had to find like pet-friendly hotels like along the way. So I had
3 a.m.
Man, listen, I found this website, right, that it was actually kind of dope because you put in like your destination and it like maps out, where there's spots.
You guys were prepped.
But here's the thing, like some, a lot of these places, there's like weight restrictions on the dogs, breed restrictions on the dogs. Like,
yeah. I wouldn't tell you if I had a 20-pound dog.
I wanted to get a 10-pound dog, I'd get a cat. Like,
right.
Look,
I wouldn't even report it.
So the first night, so we left, I think it was a Thursday in the afternoon. And so we got to Ohio the first night. And of course, we're in this janky, middle of nowhere dump. Like, I don't even know how else to describe
someone got murdered in the hotel we stayed in that night. The Oklahoma-Texas border. Like, it was a club in there. We're checking in the lobby at 3 a.m. with our dog, and we just hear boom, boom. No. And then you hear like, oh, he's leaking. Like, you're like, oh no. Like, and then you see, anytime you see 6 cops run in a room and sprint back out, someone's dead.
No, I'm asleep in the truck tonight.
Yeah, the check-in lady's like, I swear this doesn't always happen. I was like, all right, let's just get the keys and call it a night.
Yeah, right. So we get in there and like you can hear everything. Like,
yeah, dude.
The walls are paper thin. You can hear everything going on in the hallway, like people walking by, and so like the dogs wouldn't chill out. They wouldn't lay down and go. They're just on edge all night, just and then my son is doing his thing.
Yeah, and you got a 1-year-old or less than 1-year-old?
About a year and a half at the time, I think.
Yeah, that's still a tough time.
Yeah, so thankfully he fell asleep, but like the dogs, they would just not. It was just like pacing back and forth, growling at the door, barking at the window. Then the second day, we went from Ohio to Missouri.
Mm.
And then thankfully, we found a way nicer hotel, like, so that was cool. But like my son, you put a toddler in the car for 12, 14 hours, they come out and it's like he's like hell on wheels. Dude's full of energy and, off this wall, off this bed. And it's like, he wants to get into everything. And so that second night was a little rough, just because he was so energetic and, whatever. But then the third day, that night, I was looking at the map on my phone trying to figure out where we were going to stop the next night. And it was, I forget the name of it. It was some town in Texas. And I was like, I've never heard of this place before. So I hop on Wikipedia or Google the name of the place, and it was like the population was like 800. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, hell no, like this is some Hills Have Eyes type shit. Like,
You took the words out of my
you
mouth.
know what I mean? Like, so I'm thinking, I'm trying to look at the map to see, like, if there's another one close to that. And it's like in my head, I'm like, damn, we might as well just huff it the rest of the way. Like,
Right.
so the next day we're driving through Oklahoma, and I looked at my lady and I was like, how do you feel about, like just doing the rest of this like today? She's
Yeah.
like, I don't care. You're the one driving, whatever. So
Pushing
I was
through.
like, all right, cool. So, man, I think we did Missouri to Mesa the second day, which is like 16, 18 hours. I forget. I think it was like 2:00 in the morning when we finally got like into Arizona.
Wow.
And then we're driving on the freeway, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. All right. Be freeway the rest of the way, whatever. It takes us off the freeway up into the mountains on some local highway. Like, I've been driving 18 hours, so I could barely see straight. There's no street lights. The
Right.
roads are, all over the place. And
Oh yeah. Dude, that
so,
drive in Arizona coming down from Flagstaff, that is not an easy drive with the truck.
and then you ever seen an elk before?
No. You saw that at 2 a.m.
I see that
1 a.m.
dude was like, he wasn't in the road, like he was on the shoulder. But like, when I tell you, this thing looked like a deer on all sorts of like steroids.
Yeah.
Man, just the veins in his legs and like the definition of the muscle. I looked
The
at my lady,
definition.
I was like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, that's an elk. And I was like, in Arizona? Like,
It scared the shit out
don't
of
they
me.
have that in like Canada and like,
Yeah, it's a whole nother place in North
like,
Arizona.
oh, no, up north it's kind of colder. And I was like, oh, all right, whatever, but and then she wants to stop and see her parents, and I'm like, it's 3:00 in the morning. Like, can we do this tomorrow? We
We're
live
gonna
5
see
minutes
plenty
away.
of them.
But and then we got in that night, and my in-laws, and my girl's family, they had set up, some furniture for us. They set up a bed for my son because they knew it was going to be a minute before our stuff got out here. But we were sleeping on an air mattress. And we'd go to bed, and then my son would wake up in the middle of the night. He'd come in, hop on the air mattress with us, and then the dogs in the middle of the night, they would decide, this looks comfy. So it ended up being like 2 adults, a 2-year-old, and 2 50, 60-pound dogs on this twin-sized air mattress.
Right.
Wake up in the morning, the air's all gone. I'm on the floor, like
Shit don't work.
I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
forgot to say, when we stay at that murder hotel, what happened right before, we got a flat tire. I can't remember if we're going out there or coming back east, but when we stay at that murder hotel, we got a flat. It may have been on the trailer holding the car, so I want to say that was on the way out there. But
yeah.
dude, I mean, it was on the border of Texas and Oklahoma, and it was like, I decided to get off the main road and drive for a second, and it was like a gravel road. I was blocking someone's like dark driveway path. I'm like, this is some Hills Have Eyes shit.
Yeah, bro.
Let me pull up a little more and wait on this guy. And some guy named Bill saved our life, but
shout out to Bill.
totally fixed it all up. But yeah, so okay, so let's fast forward to when you got in the shop and you found Nico's.
So
how did you kind of get that?
So before we got out here, my father-in-law, he would always, when he would try and, joke about us coming out here, whatever.
Yeah.
So the first couple months we got out here, I was working at the barbershop my father-in-law was going to.
Okay.
I was working for, his barber. But it was more of like a salon / barbershop.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? We had guys in there. There was 2 ladies that were stylists, and then I was the only like just barber. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it was definitely a good look because, he helped me. It was like, listen, I'll give you X amount a week, regardless of how much you cut.
Yeah.
That way you can still pay your bills and you can get your
Yeah.
feet wet out here, because I know you don't have clientele, you don't really know nobody. I did that for a few months, and then I think his lease was coming up for renewal, and I believe him and his brother were on the lease, and his brother didn't want to be on it no more. And he didn't want to take it on by himself, so he was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go do my own thing, get a studio, whatever. So I have reached out to another barbershop out here on Instagram because I'd seen they were hiring. I worked there for a couple years, ended up working my way up to, manager, and then it was just a strictly walk-in shop. So, some days, I'd be super busy all day. Some days be, not doing nothing.
Yeah.
So, but it was like taxing almost because, you get those days where you get a rush 10 minutes before close, or like you
Yeah.
already got two people waiting and then somebody walks in at 5 minutes before close. And,
Yeah.
so I'm supposed to get out at 6 o'clock, or whatever, end up not getting out till 7:30, 8 o'clock. And it's like, I got a little one at home that
It's
I
a
ain't
tough
seen
thing
all
on your
day.
brain to like
Yeah.
not know what's coming, and then it all
Yeah.
fucking just pours on you.
Okay. I mean, I didn't really, like, it didn't bother me, like, that it was just walk-ins, like, because we got plenty of work,
Yeah.
it was just, the people at the end of the day that would pop in and be like, "Oh, still got me?" Like, "Bro, it's 6 o'clock." Like,
Don't you see two people sitting down waiting?
yeah, and sometimes, like, they would look at the hours on the door, and they'd
Yeah.
see, "Oh,
You guys
5:55,
open? What time is it?
5:55. Oh, let me, oh, yeah, you got room for me?" Like, bro, seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, and because it was, we had to take everybody up until 6 o'clock.
Right.
So, I mean, it just got to be like, I just started losing out on too much time, at home. And, you know, we were open 7 days. So, and me and my lady worked like almost opposite schedules. Like, so she had weekends off. I had Tuesday, Wednesday off.
Yeah.
So we never really had like, time together. It
Yeah.
was,
It's never in sync with.
whatever that little bit of time was when I got home from work, that's all we got, even on my days off and her days off. So,
Right.
I mean, it was
Passing out
beneficial.
watching Netflix kind
Yeah,
of. Yeah.
it's, I don't know, but it was nice because, I had those 2 days and it was just me and my son. So we got to spend quality time on my days off, but, it's kind of sucks when, you can't spend like that family time and you
Right.
can't
It's a
make plans
union.
because,
Yeah,
like,
man.
one of you has to take time off of work or, whatever the case may be. So over time, it was just like, man, I lost out on a lot back home because of the mandatory overtime and all that stuff. So, you know, and then I lost my dad in January. And one of the things it was like, I just kind of, I had to reevaluate a lot. It was like, man, you know what? Like, yeah, I'm making good money, but I'm missing out on a lot. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
want to be there as much as I can. And, I needed something different, And so, I reached out to Reggie because one of my former coworkers had ended up working for him. And, he was, just praising Reggie left and right, how he handles his employees, how he handles his business, just all that.
Such a good dude.
Yeah, for
He
sure. For
gets it.
sure. Absolutely. And so, I had reached out to him and I was like, yo, can you talk to Reggie and just, I don't know if y'all are hiring, but, just let me know, what he says, and so Reggie reached out and, I explained to him like, listen, I need something different. Like I need more flexibility. I need to have at least an idea of when I'm going home. You know what I mean? Like at the end
Yeah.
of the day, cause like I can block off certain times in my schedule and be like, you know what, I'm taking my last cut at this time and that's it. Like,
Yep.
so I'm out by 6 o'clock or whatever the case may be.
He uses a Square, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Square, you just pop right on there, block that
Yeah.
shit, and
Yeah.
you know
Which
what?
is, which is dope. So,
Yeah.
and, but yeah, so I was just like, he was like, yeah, for sure, and he was like, I've been waiting for this day, I've been following you for a minute, but it wasn't like he kind of said he felt bad that I was leaving the shop I was at to come work for him. And it was like, I told him, I was like, man, listen, it'd be different if you was, out here, you know, poaching barbers, so to speak. Like, hey,
Yeah.
come work for me. Hey, come work for me. Like,
Nah.
that's not how, he understands that's bad business, and it's just
Yeah.
not the type of person he is. So, he kind of worked some things and was, sent me a schedule, and the rest is history. So
So let's talk. So how long have you worked in Nico's now?
I've been at Nico's for 2 months now.
Just 2 months.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you
I
just
was at
get
the
there.
other shop for about 2.5 years up
So were
until,
you able to retain anyone or bring anyone with you?
I mean, I had a couple people like, whose information I had from when I
Yeah.
first got out here,
Okay.
and started cutting it, where my father-in-law was, getting his haircut at. The shop I was at prior to Reggie's, we weren't allowed to give out like our info. Like I couldn't give out my personal information. I wasn't supposed to give out my Instagram, because it was like, oh, this is the shop's clientele. It was just
Yeah.
how the owner ran it or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there was people that came out and found me, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like found me on Instagram or, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
That's
But
that's an interesting thing sometimes. Sometimes it's like you can't like just these are all my clients. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
right, right,
they
right,
have
right.
they have a free will. They can go with the
And
barber.
that was my thing. Like I'm not gonna go out of my way to like take them with me, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you
But
were respectful about it still, I
if they
feel like.
reach out to me, like that's their choice.
Yeah.
You can't tell grown adults what they can and can't do. Oh,
Seems
you
fair.
starting to get your hair cut here. Now you gotta keep coming.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man. You know what I mean? Like, and one of my clients went up in there and was, looking for me, and after I left, and they wouldn't tell him where I was at. He was like, "Oh, I can't
Yeah.
give you that
Yeah.
information."
That's even
And
more
he
fucked
was
up.
like, "What do you mean you can't give me that information?"
I can't.
And he's like, he don't work here no more." And he
Jesus.
kind of shook his head, and he's like, "Man," he's like, Gilbert's only so big. Like it's just a matter of time before I find him.
Yeah.
A couple weeks
That's
later,
my
we
next
bumped into
question.
each
So
other at the grocery store.
you're in the big one then, right? You're in the OG Nico?
No, no, no. So
Where
I'm in.
is the
I'm
yeah, I
at
thought that's where it was.
So the original one on Higley and Baseline,
Okay.
that was literally I could probably throw a rock from my apartment and hit that one.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm at the one in Santan, the newest one.
The new one, yeah. That's
The,
good though. That's a good place to build.
yeah, yeah, and the thing is this, like through the Square app, like I literally have access to every single client that goes to Nico's. Like,
Right.
I'm not gonna try and take people. Like it's just like back to the whole walk-in thing. It's like it's just very strange, how Reggie is. He's like, he wants to help his barbers grow, and
Yeah.
if you leave, yeah, he's gonna be sad, but like he knows the business is gonna be there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So if you got clients that follow you, good for you. You know what I mean? Like I'm happy for you. Go do your own thing. Like, but you got some other people out here where it's like mine, 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 mine.
Yeah, I know.
It's,
Yeah, he's legit, man. I mean, he's done a lot of mission work. I mean,
man,
look
listen,
good, do good. He knows how to give. Like,
he takes care of people, bro. Like,
yeah,
when I came back from Rochester after, going back home for my dad's services and all that, like, he checked up on me. I said, "You all right, man? Is everything good? Like, whatever." Just a real solid dude. And then
yeah. You don't
he's
forget
like,
that.
"If you need anything, let me know." He's like, I understand switching shops. It may be a little difficult because some of your clientele may not know." He's like, "But if you need anything, like whatever, just say the word, and it's just like that means a lot, because
Yeah,
you got people out here that they'll constantly tell you like, "Oh, I appreciate you," or whatever, but the actions are completely opposite. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's all
Nah, he backs it up, no doubt.
absolutely
He, I mean, you never know in a scenario down the road, you might, you know, build up a clientele
right.
that you can bring with you and come back
Yeah,
to that OG location
yeah.
and be right by your spot too. Be
Well, no,
available to
so
you.
we moved from that apartment to the
Oh,
house
you
I'm at
moved
now.
out there
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I
So that's
moved.
good then.
We were on the borderline of Gilbert and Mesa.
Yeah.
and now we moved like further into Mesa.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Mesa's kind of blew up a lot over just since
Mesa,
I
Gilbert.
left.
Yeah, that's what everybody out here tells me, man. Like
Yeah.
I don't get out much, man. I go to work, I come home.
Get out more, man. It's a fun place, man. There's that whole East Valley is cool.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I'm
I mean,
trying
I've
to
been down
think.
to Phoenix a couple times for games, Glendale and all that. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, the Bills come out there any this year? I don't think.
maybe that. Man, when was it? I don't. It's either next year or the year after, I believe. I'm not 100% sure.
They'll be okay.
I think the last time they were out here was that Hail Murray.
Oh yeah,
caught it
I
in
didn't
the
realize that was the Bills too. Okay.
yeah, and then every NFL Network commercial decided that.
You get to see that.
Well, it's another reason to throw the Bills on.
I got to cut Andy Isabella's hair when I was out
Yeah?
there. Yeah, because my the practice facility is right next to the shop I worked in.
Okay.
It was all walk-ins too. He walked in, and I thought, I mean, he looks like he was 16. Like anyway, like when he was a rookie, he looked even younger. And I was like, yeah, just keep busting your ass, man. Like I treated him like some practice squad guy.
Yeah.
And then like I had him repeat his name before he left, and I was like, wait a minute. I remember they drafted this kid, and we looked him up. He was like a second-round pick. He was making like $900K milli plus the next
year. So it's
year.
a funny story. So like I think it was like my first or second day there. One of my coworkers was cutting this guy, and they were talking about football, and he left, and my coworker was like, "You know who that was? You know he played in the league, right?" And he had said his name was Tanner, and I was like, Tanner, and I like Tanner, and I thought about there was Tanner Vallejo. He was a linebacker in Arizona, but he was drafted by Buffalo.
Yeah.
So the whole time my coworker's cutting this dude, and I'm on my phone, like trying to figure out who this dude is. And then it clicked, and I was like, fuck that. No way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not going to be that dude and run over there. And,
No, yeah. I always tell a story. I saw Neil Brennan in our shop here. You know,
he's
Neil
the
Brennan?
dude that,
made
the
Chappelle
comedian,
show.
right? Yeah.
So no one knew who he was but me when he came in. And he came in early, like too early for his appointment. He walked back out, was talking on his phone. And we walked in. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, dude. I'm watching this guy's podcast on the way to work that day. I'm like, this is
That's
fucking crazy.
wild, man.
But I'm like, Bradley Cooper walks in. I'm like, I'm not even looking at the guy. I'm just like, leave the guy alone.
Don't care.
But for some reason, comedians, they eat a little shit earlier in their career. Like, I don't know. I just feel like they're different. So I just let him know I knew who he was. I'm like, no, Brandon, appreciate what you're doing, man. A little fist bump.
Right.
He said, take it easy when he left. That's all. Yeah. I tried to cut his hair. I was like, Malcolm, let me get this. And I was booked up. I'm like, well, do the switcheroo. What the fuck?
Right. You can adjust that. Come on, bro.
And my guy, Miguel, that got to cut him was like, I'm like, you know who that was? He was like, he was kind of an asshole. I was trying to get him out as fast as I could. And I was like, dude, that guy made Chappelle show, man. What?
One of my coworkers actually cut Matt Prater.
Oh yeah,
the kicker.
Yeah, dude.
So
I'm a huge Denver Broncos guy, so that was our guy for a minute.
Yeah.
But we'll talk football here in a second.
For sure.
Let's go all the way back to when you were a kid. Kind of what were you into, and what was like being a kid like? And like, what was like the artistic? Did you have any kind of influence that would lead you to this?
Nah, it's wild, bro. Like, I never touched a pair of clippers till barber school.
Okay.
So like, and if you'd have told me when I was younger that this is what I'd be doing for work, like, I probably looked at you crazy, like, But when I was younger, man, just I was in just ripping and running with my friends, and getting into all sorts of mischief, and riding bikes, riding skateboards. I was big into wrestling when I was a kid. I mean, I'm big into it now.
I saw you reply. Did you see that guy was crying watching? And like, I'm watching it, and I think it's funny, but a part of me is like, dude, there's a possibility I could have cried too, just because I knew it would have brought me back to that time, in like the late 90s and everything. So I'm like, fuck, dude. I can't even give that guy shit.
I don't know if you see they just put out the documentary on Bray Wyatt. So I was
No way.
watching that last night, and it's like, man, it's because he passed away a couple years ago,
Oh
and
shit.
it's just like it was a tearjerker, man. I'm sitting
Yeah.
there, and I was like, man, thank God she's asleep because I'm over here like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like listen to his
Like,
wife talk
God
about him and his
damn
kids,
it.
and
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, dude, I was down in my basement when I lived in PA and
yeah.
during COVID, and I found WrestleMania 97. And I believe that was Stone Cold and The Rock, like going at it in the heavyweight belt. And I think it was 97, maybe 98. I can't remember. It was one of
I know
those.
it was Shawn Michaels one year, and then I think it was The Rock
Yeah.
another year.
Like
Yeah,
both of them kicked out of like the stunner and the rock
yeah,
bottom
yeah,
and
yeah.
people's elbow and shit. And it
Uh-huh.
was like
And I was
monumental. And I was like, dude, I gotta watch this. I found like my middle school football tape too, the whole
mhm.
season. I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be tremendous. And I'm like backed up, I'm bringing them upstairs. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have shit to play these on. What am I
Right,
gonna watch
right.
these on?
Yeah. My son got a DVD from my girl's aunt the other day, and I was like, I'm
What are
thinking
we
like,
gonna
oh, okay, he's asking me to open it so he could watch it, whatever. And I'm like, shit, what am I gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
and then a light bulb. I was like, oh, I got the PlayStation, so I did that. But I was like, man, we ain't got a DVD player. Like,
I can't even do the place or the Xbox trick or PlayStation trick now because I got the digital only joint now.
oh
So
no.
now it's totally over
Yeah,
for all the discs and tapes.
yeah,
And they got
yeah,
those digitation companies you can kind of like send them out. I definitely want to do that for the
yeah,
WrestleMania. But that was
yeah,
something cool my dad, and that's one thing we talked about a little bit and we share. We have dads that passed away from
yeah,
cancer, and
yeah,
I didn't realize yours was that recent.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, looking back, that was like something my dad did for me. He bought these wrestling pay-per-views
yeah.
and would put them on tape and
Uh-huh.
record them because it was always a Sunday night and I would have to go to school.
Yeah,
And so like he didn't get all of them, but he got like the dope ones, like the
yeah.
WrestleManias, the Royal
So,
Rumbles, the
my
Survivor
dad, like,
Series.
so I mean, I grew up like in a split household. So like my parents was
Same,
divorced
same.
before I was even born. But
Okay.
on the weekends, I'd go over to my dad's and we'd go to Blockbuster
Yeah,
and I'd
man.
rent like 2, 3, the old school pay-per-views on the VHS tapes, and
Yeah.
that was my weekend, you know what I mean?
Dude, they had that whole wall full of
Yeah,
wrestling
yeah.
pay-per-views. That was the
I'd
best.
go play with play with all my friends and stuff, during the day and stuff. And then
Yeah.
when it was time to come in, like I was in front of the TV just glued to them, playing video
Yeah.
games or watching the old wrestling joints. But
The amount of
you had said
figure
something
four
about
leg locks that we'd put our friends in and shit, and
so funny story about
Ric
that.
Flair back smacks.
So funny story about that. So it was like a group of us that were like real cool. So like the neighbor directly across the street from my dad, and then kid like 2, 3 houses down from him, and another kid down the block. Like it was just there was a neighborhood I grew up in was just all kids my age range. But all of us were into wrestling and stuff like that. So like we
Oh, yeah.
would, go all out, do all sorts of wild
Had the
shit.
first blood match.
Man, listen, it's funny you
Hell
say
in the
that
Cell.
because that's where the story goes. So my dad had these big like decorative rocks in his front yard. And so we were like acting like, we were having this wrestling match, and like I forget what happened, but like I was on top of this other kid acting like I was, punch him in the face or whatever, and he pushes me off and I go flying backwards and I hit my head on the corner of one of these boulders and I just out. Next thing I know, I wake up and like I'm being carried into my dad's house. I had split the back of my head open.
Damn.
And it's fucked up now, but it's funny. The first thing my dad said was, "God damn it, Christopher. Now I got to call your mother and explain this to her."
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad. I'm all right.
It's a realistic thing.
Oh, man. But you said something about
No,
your
it's
dad.
not bad as my dad. I cut my toe off cutting grass with my dad.
No.
Right when I graduated high school. Right before I did it, what'd my dad say? Well, when I was like, let me go home and get my cleats. He's like, I can do it in tennis shoes. Well, I do it all the time in my tennis shoes. What's the problem?
Yeah, right.
I made him run every red light. Then we got pulled over by the cops. It was a
What a
whole
nightmare.
thing.
I remember. So you had said something about your dad recording stuff. So like,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up a Bills fan because of my dad, and he had like all the Super Bowls on VHS.
Oh, no
And he
way.
had
That's
like,
dope.
I don't know if it was like just a sick joke he wanted to play on me or something when I was a kid.
Oh,
but
yeah. I forgot that's not dope as a
man,
Bills
listen,
fan.
no, listen. So he'd give me the tapes and be like, "Oh yeah, you know, we went to the Super Bowl, you know, whatever." But he wouldn't tell me the result. So
Yeah,
he'd sit there and let me watch these games.
yeah. I was gonna
And
say
just
it wasn't as dope as I was thinking for a second.
and then I found out, you know, he had known and didn't tell me. It was like, "Oh, okay, thanks, Dad." Like he's like, "Oh well," you know, it was like a rite of passage. You know what I mean?
I'll show you the history here.
You gotta go through what I went through. You know what I mean?
The fandom, what they go through, man.
Man,
So, would you play sports growing up, or what'd you do growing up? Kind of.
honestly, so I played Little League baseball.
Okay.
And then I forget, it was like a neighborhood league, but I played up until middle school. And then once middle school, you know, I was bouncing around so much that
Yeah.
like, you know,
Hard to
mentally
establish.
I just wasn't there, you know what I mean? So it was like I was focused on, you know, other things. So it just wasn't like a priority at that
For
point.
sure. So, I mean, with this being super fresh with your dad and
Yeah.
everything, I remember when my dad passed, I kind of buried myself in work
Yeah.
and did really distracted myself.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until like last year when everything calmed down because life was moving, we're moving around, and
Yeah.
I finally it really hit me. And my wife brought up all this stuff downstairs for my dad's, like his
Mhm.
guitar, and like
Yeah.
I come home from work, there's all this shit. I can see it through the kitchen. I'm like, oh my God, why is all this stuff? I was having a great day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. This is what we're doing now.
yeah. It's like, oh, okay, we're doing this. We're showing letters on deathbeds now.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. And then but yeah, no, it was really something I needed. And it kind of made me like open up something that needed opened. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm on the other side of it now. You know, obviously wish he was here. He never got a chance to see my
Yeah.
daughter and
Yeah,
everything
for
like
sure.
that.
Sure.
And just like as a barber professionally, I mean, we're always trying to battle that perception, right? And that's part of this podcast. A huge part of this podcast is like show people how much we kill it and how well we can do as barbers, as
Right.
as an occupation, even, and just
Yeah.
the fulfillment of it. And then those two things combined is like all a father wants. And I wish I would have got to show him that. And
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
so and, your dad got to see that some, so that, I mean, feel
Yeah.
good in that.
Yeah. You know, so he got diagnosed. Man, it was like he was going through some stuff when we moved out here, but you
Yeah.
know, he had cancer when I was in middle school, I believe, elementary, middle
Okay.
school. Yeah, bladder cancer,
Okay.
and they were able. I was so it's so long ago. I don't know how, but they ended up getting rid of it or whatever the case may be.
Because of remission.
Yeah. So then when I was in high school, he had a tumor in his neck. I think it was like decent size, but they removed it. I'm not sure if it was cancer or not. He started, going through some health issues.
Was
Yeah,
he very like, was he vocal about it, or did he kind
about
of
his
like not
about his
say a
health
lot
issues.
to you about it?
Oh no, he never, oh, I'm all right, I'm all right, I'm all right. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think honestly, deep down, I think he knew he was sick,
Oh yeah.
but didn't want to know how sick he was. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
A lot of
So
men battle that.
yeah,
100%. That can
it's
happen.
um so he was going through some tests and stuff like as we were moving out here, and then like a month or two after we moved out here, I got the phone call from my aunt telling me, that he had gotten diagnosed, and I think the prognosis was like 2 years.
Mm.
So that really hit me hard because I just, like I told you, but we spoke before, we got on here, but I couldn't help but feel guilty. You know what I mean? Like I'm 2,500 miles away, and he's going through all that, and my son's here with me, and so it was real tough. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
So
totally understand that because that's one thing that was a blessing. I feel like that my dad passed away before we moved to
yeah,
Arizona because
yeah,
I don't think I would have been able to handle that, in the condition he was
yeah,
in
yeah.
moving out.
So like, like I said, I felt guilty, but like, my lady had to keep reminding me, like, it wasn't like he had never met my son or,
Yeah,
anything like that. He was over every weekend almost, every Sunday for football and, hanging out with me, my wife, my son, like, so he had time with him. You know what
yeah,
I mean? But that was hard. So like I made sure we spoke on FaceTime, a couple times a week, even up to the point where like when he got like real sick and he just doze off, you know what I mean, from the
yeah.
chemo and
Oh, yeah.
just so he could see my son, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but and I'm thankful we got to, we ended up going back home beginning of January. I mean, by this time he was bedridden and
Yeah.
couldn't talk, could barely move. There was a
Yeah.
lot of facial expression, stuff like that. But,
Yeah.
I'm very thankful that, like, my son was able to interact with him a little bit,
Yeah.
because there's a big difference, obviously between a year and a half and 4 years. He's a whole different kid now.
100%.
So, he was able to laugh and, kind of joke with my dad and, he got a couple smiles out of him. And, so that meant, it sucked that that's how we had to see him.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm thankful that he did get to see him. You know what I mean? And then I think it was like
100%, man.
a week, maybe less to the day. And I told my cousins when we were there, and I said, I don't want it to happen like this, but I got a weird feeling that like we're gonna get back to Arizona and he's gonna pass.
Yeah.
And we left. Yeah, I think it was a week to the day, if not a little less, that I got the phone call.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's rough. I totally understand.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like my dad kinda almost held on until I got there
yeah,
because
yeah.
he was by the time, like because I lived in a different town, same
Hmm.
state,
Hmm.
but it was a good 45 minutes away, so
Yeah.
by the time I got there, I feel like he was basically gone, but he was fighting to hold on, and it's
Yeah.
like, "Okay, we're all
So
here."
the day 2 days before my father passed, I got
Mhm.
a call from a real close family friend, someone I grew up with, someone um, lived across the street from my dad,
Yeah,
um, that I look at, as somewhat kind of like a brother, like an older brother, because,
okay.
he's known me since I was in elementary school. So, but he was real close with my dad too. His dad and my dad were like best friends. Um, but he had called me and he was like, I think today's gonna be the day.
Yeah,
And, so I was like kind of mentally, getting myself there and
yeah,
preparing for that. I called my aunts, and my aunts were kind of like on the same page at that point.
yeah,
He didn't pass that day. I think it was like a couple days later. I was at work,
yeah,
in between. I was in the middle of a cut, and I got a phone call from him, and he's sobbing like I can't even understand him. And he's like, "Listen, like it's gonna happen within the next few minutes, like."
yeah,
And he was like, "I don't know if you want to FaceTime and talk to him." And or what. He's like, but I wanted to tell you,
Yeah.
and I hung up the phone and I sat there and I was like, I don't want to see him like this,
Yeah.
but I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, man,
You'll
if I don't
regret it.
FaceTime and at least say my piece,
Yeah.
tell him I love him, all that, I'm gonna regret it,
No
so
doubt.
I took a minute, I went in the back, I FaceTimed, I just kind of, sat there on the phone with him, told him I loved him, whatever. And that was it. But you had said like your dad had waited. So I have an
Yeah.
older brother. My dad had a son from a previous marriage. And so I had called, FaceTimed him, whatever. And then a couple minutes after I got off the phone, my brother showed up. And literally, I think he was sitting, he got there, stand next to my dad's bed, told him he loved him, whatever. My dad looked at him, and that was it. So it was like he saw me, he saw my son, you know what I mean? Saw me again, then saw my brother, and he was like,
Yeah,
okay,
man.
it's time.
It's a
So
beautiful way for it to happen
yeah,
in a way. That's crazy. I got a half sibling too, an older, like way
I have
older
two.
brother.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a sister, a half sibling, a half sister
Yep.
through an
Same.
old marriage. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a long road. And in a way, you kind of think about the day of it happening and what it's going to be like. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it just
Yep.
never happens like when it happens, when it's supposed to happen. And then things
And
get
for a
pushed.
minute, like I knew it was coming, but
Yeah.
like after time, it was like, well, maybe he's gonna be all right. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's
because
like,
it was,
he's just going to get through this again like he did
yeah.
before.
Yeah,
And
and
then,
it
yeah.
seemed like chemo and everything was going good and, all that,
Yeah.
and then, it was going good till it wasn't,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, my dad lasted 4 years with his, and he had like 4 months. I mean, they gave him months in the
yeah,
beginning, and then he kind of went through remission, and then it came back even harder.
yeah,
Then everything kind of just took its toll.
yeah. I mean, thank God, man. Listen, my aunts, my dad's sisters, man, they took care of that man from the day he got diagnosed until the day he died,
Yeah,
like, they did
you gotta give
shifts,
it up.
the whole day, somebody does the day shift, somebody stays with them at night, like, that's just my dad's side of the family, they're real tight like that.
Yeah,
So, thank God for them because it put me kind of at ease
yeah, you
in the
could
sense of
trust
being all the
someone
way
with
out
the,
here. I
yeah,
knew
he was in
that
good
no
hands.
matter what, he was in good. He was taken care of. You know what I mean? And they're not. They don't play about their family. They don't play about
Right.
their brother. You know what I mean? And so, like you said, yeah, I knew he was in good hands. So
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, these things are tough that happen, but they're part of our story, and they kind of make us
yeah,
better.
right, for
It's like a
sure.
driving force in us, and I don't know. These are the things I like to share because it's like, when a client's getting their haircut by their barber
Hmm.
and they don't know these things about us,
Nah.
and
Mm-mm.
but in the barber chair and behind the chair, it's kind of like a therapy session in a way. So it
Yeah.
is a place where they can't find that out. But I
Yeah.
mean, just the regular Joe, the regular guy working 9 to 5, is you wouldn't know
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
So speaking of regular Joe 9 to 5, let's talk about some of your old jobs. You kind of got into some things you got into, and
Man, listen,
and just talk
I
about like, so one thing I talk about a lot on here, especially not as of late, and it drives me nuts because I was just in New York City, right?
yeah.
When you think New York City, do you think service? Do you think like the best service you're gonna get in your life? You know what I mean?
Guess it depends, like, where you're at in the city, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, when we're not at the Ritz-Carlton,
yeah,
exactly, we're not there, but, like, you know what I mean? The hustle and bustle. Who's next? Next,
yeah, 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 for sure, for
it's
sure.
weird when you come back to Atlanta, and don't
Mhm.
ask me why my wife wanted to get a smoothie at the airport after we land. It's usually before, but
Yeah.
I digress. And just like the customer service experience we had with this smoothie worker at the airport, I was
In New
like,
York?
no, back in Atlanta.
Oh,
I was
okay.
like, oh yeah, we're back home.
Yeah.
We're back. We're
Yeah.
back.
Uh-huh.
It's a shame when New
Yeah.
York blows away
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Atlanta service,
Oh, yeah.
and it's New York City. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, just took all of me to just not be like, quit. Walk
Yeah.
away from this. This is
Uh-huh.
not your end. This is,
All right.
trust me, it's not worth the negativity and stress you're adding on yourself.
You don't want to be here. Like, why are you here?
Yeah, and like you talking about working corrections and everything, like I mean,
Yeah.
dude, I felt like you were getting emotional about it because it is something that like really will rip you down working a
Man,
job you
so,
hate
like,
and suck you in.
don't get me wrong. Like, there was definitely bad days. But, you think about those jobs and it's like, all you think about is the horror stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but it really, like, the most taxing thing about it was like the stress, like as far as like, am I gonna go home in the morning? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No
because
doubt.
I'll tell you something, bro. Like, there's nothing worse than I'm supposed to get out. I'm supposed to be walking up to base at 7 o'clock to get my keys,
Yeah.
and I get that phone call at 6:45. Hey, so and so called off. You gotta stay because you're already mentally like on your way home. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, just like it's almost you hear the phone ring and it's PTSD. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Little
I'm
things like that just make you even more appreciative of like barbering
yeah,
and just like
yeah,
it's such a special job. And these
yeah,
old jobs we have, they make us who we are. You know,
yeah, absolutely, for
we're
sure.
experienced fellows because we've dealt with these old, jobs
Yeah,
and old scenarios and everything. And it's part
yeah,
of our story.
yeah.
But so what do you think your worst job was outside of that job? Because that seemed like a full time. So where's some
Yeah,
bad jobs
that
you
was
worked?
a full time and a half, bro. I was like,
Yeah, that was more than
don't get me wrong, bro. Like, the money was great. You know what I mean? It
yeah.
allowed me to buy my first
I
house.
I could tell if you
You know,
spent that much to move, like, you had to have a bit of a
well,
nest egg.
so, so I got so I ended up getting hurt at work.
Oh,
That's
shit,
how I
okay.
ended up getting the money to move. Like, I
Dude,
messed up my shoulder at work. So
the
once I got
shoulder changed your life.
eh, yeah, I got the phone call from my lawyer, and he's like, I hear him clicking the numbers in the background, and oh yeah, you're getting about this much, and I was like, excuse me, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, well, actually, minus my cut, and I was like, man, that's more money than I ever seen at one point in time in my life. Like,
Yeah,
it wasn't like an extravagant amount, but still, it was enough for me to be able to spend what I spent on moving and still have a good chunk left over. So, but
dude, that was the moment
yeah,
where
it was like
you got lucky
so.
that your shoulder
So
got hurt.
I got blessed twice
Yeah,
from my shoulder injury. So I got hurt exactly a week to the day before my son was born,
okay.
and leading up to that, they weren't going to give me paternity.
Oh my
It
god,
was something to do. I don't know what the exact policy was, but we weren't married. So it was like, you don't qualify for it. It's like, how does that? I'm still the kid's
so
dad. Like,
dumb. Yeah.
fuck does that matter? Like,
Yeah.
so I got hurt a week to the day. So I was out of work from November until I think right after the Super Bowl I went back. So November to February.
Okay.
And I was getting paid I still had, multiple checks coming in from work and then workers' comp. So that was the first blessing. The second one obviously was the settlement, and then using that to get the hell out of New York. So,
How long was that? How long was that process to get that settlement? A year, maybe?
so a year from your injury date, you have to. So once you get hurt, when I first got hurt, they had told me, I went to get X-rays,
Mm,
and then after the X-rays, the lady was like, "Well, based on what you're describing, like and what I see, like there's no breaks, so she's like, well, you should probably go get an MRI because you may have something torn.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, oh well, I better go get a lawyer, you know what I mean? So called the lawyer, set all that up. So they send you to a doctor, you get evaluated by the doctor, then you got to go through your job's doctor to get evaluated. So my doctor sent me to, and the way they do it, I believe it's like least expensive first. So those options were like cortisone and physical therapy,
Yeah.
which doesn't really make sense to me because if I do have a tear, excuse me,
Making it worse.
and I'm going to physical therapy 2-3 times a week or whatever, I could make this way worse and then require surgery, and then you got to pay me more.
Yeah.
But so, anyways, to answer your question, you have to go back a year from your injury date to get reevaluated after you go through like whatever your physical therapy. And so I went back the year, and my doctor evaluated me, the state's doctor evaluated me, and they ended up, without realizing it, coming up to the same conclusion. They give you a percentage of loss, and my doctor and the state's doctor both ended up coming up with the same number. So the state really didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
So, then I think it was a couple months after that. I think I got my check in like April. So, yeah, about a year and a half from start to finish.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just all the hoops you got to jump through.
And
to
I
get,
honestly,
to get to
and
that
I
point.
didn't expect to get anything. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
in case got a lawyer.
Yeah. That was smart.
So when he called me and told me, I was like, and then
Yeah.
I went inside, told my lady, and she's like, "Stop playing with me! Don't play with my."
So yeah, I mean, so that made that leap even easier to make.
Yeah, because
to
I
get
was able
out.
to keep her at home with my son, so they could get adapted out here, before she started working and put him back in daycare and all that. So yeah, it definitely
Yeah,
was
man.
a big blessing in disguise for sure.
That worked out, man. I mean, yeah, that's something that drives you forward, and
Yeah,
it makes dealing with the fear a little easier of taking that leap and going
yeah.
after the passion and everything.
And like my thing was this, like, I had said, like, if the barber thing doesn't work out, right, like I'll fall back on my corrections. You know what I mean? Because like I had a state job,
Yeah.
so you know,
Was barbering always part of? I mean, was that what
so
you
I've been
wanted to
licensed.
be
So
the
I've been
number
licensed
one?
for like 10 years.
Okay,
I've only been cutting full time since I got to Arizona.
interesting.
So
So,
like,
what made you realize that like this is the viable option here, the most
like, how
viable?
did I decide to go to like barber school or?
No, I mean just like because you're like I could always fall back on the corrections
Yeah.
thing, but at what point where you're like, no, I'm not falling back on anything else.
Once
This
I
is
got
it.
here and realized that I could sustain a living off of it,
Yeah,
yeah, like minus the benefits and everything, you
yeah.
know, I make
I've been talking about that a lot too.
I make
Think
just as
about
much.
30 years from now. Are you gonna look back and be like, man, those benefits were really worth it?
Yeah, right, right.
You know what I mean? It's I tell like this fucking mail woman I got.
Uh-huh.
One of my first experiences with her, she runs over my trash can with her truck to move it out of the way. And like she's older, and I could tell, I'm like, boy, those benefits really were worthwhile, weren't
Yeah.
they?
Uh-huh.
Once you're retired, then you'll be happy, right? Then
Yeah,
then
right.
you'll be it pains me to see someone that hates their job in the middle of their workday, and I witness it. And I'm just like, man, like they haven't got it yet. They haven't
Yeah,
realized what they could do.
yeah,
So let's dive into something more barber related now,
yeah, for sure.
and more situational in the shop, because you cut kids, right? And Nico's. See, that's one thing with
More
here. I haven't had to cut kids in like 2 years now.
man, listen, like more I don't listen, like I get it, it's part of the job, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like some of these parents, it's like
This is exactly my topic here. So listen, so the
There
mom,
should be like an age limit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, because some of these people, like, they bring like infants in, and it's
and they
like, yeah,
want
I
like
can
a
cut hair. You know what I mean? It's
razor
like,
lineup.
can you give me a low? Let me get a low fade,
Yeah,
with a hard part on my 6-month-old. It's like, bro,
yeah.
no. What do
That's
you?
what I told people. I'm like, I was always like prepared to pull away with the razor in my hand because I was lining up babies in my first
But
shop in Arizona.
I won't. Like, me personally, I won't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not putting a razor. I won't even put a razor on my kid. Like,
yeah.
I'm
I
not.
kind of got like, I don't know, kind of like peer pressured into it because my boss was always doing it. So I
Yeah.
was just trying to like, make him proud, kind
Yeah.
of. And I was just like, yeah, I got this. Ugh.
We had a lady a couple weeks ago, man. Listen,
Mhm.
I felt so bad for my coworker. This lady brings her kid in, and he's probably 2, 3. The kid is screaming
Yeah,
like somebody's torturing him,
yeah,
and then, like, the mom is just like, "Oh, you're," what'd she say to him? She just kept telling him, like, "It's not that serious. It's not that serious. Like, just get your hair cut." Da, 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 da." And it's like, lady, you realize that, like, by forcing him to keep going, like, you're just traumatizing the kid. So then next time it's time to get a haircut, it's gonna be even
what they're gonna
worse.
think about.
There are places that are geared towards kids of that age range.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, get them in, get them out, keep them happy while they're there. Like, parents, I feel like they don't understand, like, how much that whole experience can be for kids. Like, it's a new place, all the
Yeah,
noises, all the people, the clippers, like,
yeah. Like
and just
you would
forcing
think they would
kids to do
introduce
that
them
makes
a
it
different
worse.
way.
What's that?
You think they would introduce them a different way?
Yeah, I mean, but you can't.
Tell me how many times you've been in this situation though.
Mm.
The mom comes in and was like, "Yeah, just take off. We need a good amount of hair taken off here." And then she leaves, right? And then
Yeah.
leaves you with this 12, 13-year-old
Uh-huh.
that's just a pisser the whole time
Yeah.
and then doesn't want any hair cut off.
Right.
And they want this, they want that broccoli top, that textured top. And then, you might taper out the sideburns. The rest of the haircut's covered up.
So, thankfully, like, I've never, like, there was one time, I will tell you one time about a mom leaving.
Mhm.
I had this kid come in. It was a toddler. I don't know how old he was.
Yeah.
The mom had the older brother bring him in. The older brother,
Yeah.
probably 16, 17, and she wants the kid bald fade, line up, like, the whole 9.
Yeah.
And I get the kid in my chair, won't stop moving. Like,
Yeah.
so the older brother comes over and he's like, you gotta sit still, that yada yada yada. The mom's outside, like, right outside the shop in her car on her phone. And this kid gets out of my chair, like, with the cape on and everything. And I'm like, dude, what is going on? And the mom's still outside on her phone. The brother's like, oh, I'm gonna go get mom, whatever. So he goes and gets her. Kid gets back up in the chair, statue, right? Mom leaves. Kid's back raising hell again.
Oh my God, dude.
Man, so he had gotten out of my chair, I think twice. The third time, the kid got out of my chair and walked out of the shop with the cape on. I'm like, this 20-minute haircut
Yeah.
we're now at like 45 minutes an hour.
And now if you got appointments, now you're
And
messed up.
I was at the walk-in shop.
Oh, that was a walk-in.
People
Yeah.
waiting.
So people are still what? See,
People
that's one
now.
thing too. At a walk-in shop, like I got a crowd witnessing me running behind. I never did well with that.
And then they're looking at me like, what are you gonna do with this kid?
Yeah, this is a nice entertainment.
So, after I got done with the haircut, I told the older brother, I was like, listen, bro, that's no disrespect, but that's gonna be the last time I cut his hair. Like, I can't
Yeah.
I can't be doing that. Like you're
That's the last time
costing
he runs out.
you're costing me money. You know what I mean?
100%.
You know, and it's like you get looked at like you're the bad guy for saying that, but yeah, I can't be trying to chase your little brother up and down baseline, you
Yeah,
know, trying to cut his hair. Like,
no doubt.
so,
So
you know,
what do
and
you
mom
what's
is just like,
I know that's the worst too, just horrible parenting,
what
especially
are
when
you
you're
here
a
to do with your
parent.
kids? Like,
Yeah. So who do you side with in this situation though? The mom or the kid that, the kid doesn't want a lot of length off, but the mom wants more length off. And the barber's stuck in this in between where it's like, okay, who do
who's
I
paying
side
me, the
with
kid or the
here?
mom?
The mom's paying, of
Oh,
course,
well,
right?
that's what I got to listen to then.
Dude, I would usually side more with the
You know
kid
what I mean?
because I got to deal with the kid
Hey,
like
listen,
more than the mom. I feel like
I'm just doing what I'm told to do. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Plus, I'm thinking in my head, if I don't cut it short enough, they're gonna come back faster.
right.
So it's a win-win either
Yeah.
way. And if I mess up, they won't come back. So that's a triple win.
There's been times where it's like I've had haircuts where it's like, man, like that one did not come out how I wanted to. But then you think about it, it's like, you know what? On the bright side, maybe they won't come back.
Right. Sometimes the pain in the asses aren't worth it, but
Yeah.
sometimes you want to prove it to them. So you work a little harder, stress out a little more, and then you're just like, what am I stressing out about? I don't need this guy.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, those are the challenges we face, though.
Yeah.
That's kind of what being like uncomfortable with barbering. Some people settle for being comfortable and don't like getting uncomfortable in
Yeah.
it.
I think, you
And
know what, like back to me moving, like I think
yeah,
that was another thing. Like I think having like I had PTO and vacation time and sick time and all that. So it was like, man, if I woke up and I was like, I don't want to go to work today, I'm not gonna go. I'll still get
yeah,
paid. You
right,
know, I feel like I was starting to get complacent. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So now it's like I'm at a spot where if I don't work, I don't get paid.
It's a
You know?
beautiful problem that gets fixed. Like
Yeah. It. So like I
even
gotta
from an ownership standpoint, like owners like know it's like, hey, I can let people take time off because I know they can't take off too long
right.
before
Yeah,
they
for
got
sure. For
ready
sure.
to work again.
Yeah. So I knew, it kind of lit a fire under me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you're getting complacent. You need more. So I think that was another factor in me like trying to pursue this barbering thing like full
Yeah.
time. So
What were some other tricks, motivational tricks? This is one thing I wanted to talk about.
my kid, man, my son, like I think that like that's got to be the biggest thing. Like
Yeah.
I like I said before, like I grew up, in a split family. So like I watched my mom struggle when I was younger. It was me and my
Same.
sister and my mom. So she did the best she could with what she had, and I thank
Mhm.
her, every day for the things she provided and all that. But I just I didn't want. I saw how much stress she was under. You know what I mean? And like because she obviously was trying to look out for us,
Yeah.
as her kids, and so I didn't want to. I didn't want to have to deal, be in that same position, I guess. So like, you know, I try to work hard to, to make sure that, we don't have to go through that stress. So, I don't have to miss out on anything. Not saying that my mom missed out on anything. She was always there, but like I said earlier, leaving the other job because I was missing out on time at home and all that. But like, yeah, for sure, my son, like every day, like I told him the other day, I pulled in the driveway and my lady pulled in right after me, and he was in her car, and I could hear him. The windows were up, and I could, Daddy, Daddy. And I opened the door and I
Best.
said, man, every day I get home, you make me feel like a celebrity, bro. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I could have the worst day, but the minute I open that door, Daddy's here, and he runs
Yeah.
up to me and grabs my leg. And, it's just if that doesn't motivate you, like
Oh yeah.
I ain't much else I can do for you.
That's the number one thing. I mean, that's an easy motivator there.
Yeah,
And
man.
sometimes you don't think about like in a way to be like, I don't know, just like a work motivator. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a easy trick to use there. Just
yeah,
think about the
yeah,
family.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's
see
like my
these
daughter
people.
the other day was like, "You're the boss, aren't you, daddy?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, maybe soon. Maybe one day very soon.
I
Who
like
knows?
to think so, but
Yeah.
nah.
And I was like, if I was the boss, maybe we could maybe I can find more time away from work or make
Yeah,
it a little more, useful.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I look back and I look and I see what my mom, did for us.
You
All the
think
things.
that added a little work ethic to your sauce
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit?
and yeah, for sure. And my dad too. Like he worked at Kodak from the time he was 17 until I think he was there for like 20 something years before he got laid off, and then he went to Xerox, and he worked all sorts of crazy hours, trick work and
Yeah.
overtime, and he
Hey man, my parents were, my grandparents basically raised me because, and then when I was like 10, 11, I was like one of those
Mhm.
latchkey kids. I was an only child, so I was,
Yeah,
home on AOL at
yeah.
11.
My
Like,
dad, so my dad would work like a real early morning. So like I remember having to get up at like
mm,
4 or 5, go over to the neighbor's house, you know, stay there till the bus came. And like,
man,
the parents were up. So it wasn't like I was just unsupervised or whatever, but
yeah,
they got us all ready for school and all that. So
made it
uh
work.
yeah, and then by the time, I got out, he was home. But yeah, he worked crazy hours. Mom worked a lot, but they made sure that they were there and, provided. So that
Yeah,
definitely put a little, some work ethic in there for sure.
yeah. One thing that, I've been thinking about, if I ever do get in business, I kind of save this for the end of the pod in case certain people are listening. But like, there might be a time very soon where I start my own business. And,
Yeah.
my dad was a small business owner.
Okay.
And I felt like it was like a cautionary tale because it didn't work out. He
Yeah.
eventually rented out the building and got a job, but
Mhm.
he had a sporting goods store,
Okay.
shoes and things. So that's how I became a Broncos fan because Elway wins back to back, and that's kind of around the time where I started taking the football, and we had all the merch.
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
Mhm.
So, yeah, in a way, I felt like I got drugged through a lot of that small, I remember like dragging shit up and downstairs,
Mhm.
whatever new venture he would come up with to try to save the business. He
Yeah.
put tanning beds in there. He tried to do like a garden. He tried to put like a
Tanning
greenhouse
beds,
on the
like, he
side.
was selling them.
What selling what?
Tanning beds? Or
Oh
he
no, he bought two tanning beds and like
uh-huh.
would charge people to tan in the shoe store. I mean, just like everything he could think of.
Yeah.
So when it finally was over, like he kept one. And I remember we had to fucking carry this
Oh
thing.
god.
Man, and those old ones were heavy as
Man,
hell, dude.
that
They're
brings me
still
back.
probably
So you asked me earlier about my worst job. There
yeah.
was one summer that me and one of my buddies back home, Paulie, we
Yo, Paulie. Yo, Paulie, give me some support over here.
so
I'm lifting all the weight.
we got a job cleaning vacant apartments, right? And getting them ready for like
Yeah,
people to move into them.
flipping them, yeah.
And there were some apartments that, people when they moved out, they cleaned it themselves. So we go in and, do a little once over and, we're out. But
Yeah.
man, listen, we had some evictions that we went through. There was this one dude, we walked in, people had just left their stuff. Like there was clothes, toys, whatever. So we go into the kitchen
Ugh.
Now, mind you, the power is shut off.
Oh,
Yeah, you know where this is going. I opened the
this
freezer.
happened to me.
Man, listen, I opened the freezer, and I don't know if they had like, I don't know what it was, but they had like black bags, right? And they must have had like packaged meat inside, but the freezer full of maggots. Like I opened
Oh,
it, and the smell, it just, we ended up like
ugh.
throwing the whole, just
Just,
throwing the whole fridge
just
out. Like, I'm not
dolly
cleaning
that
this
thing out,
out.
shoot it over a cliff.
Man, we had to get, no joke, we had to get hazmat suits,
Uh,
like the whole nine, and it took like 4 of us to carry that fucking fridge up. It was
brutal.
the worst.
That just happened to us on Easter. Our fridge took a shit on us. Yeah, Saturday night, I opened up the freezer. Heat's coming out. I'm like, all right, here we go.
This is awesome.
Here we go. Yeah, my wife has been on a conference run this past month and a half. So she was just like getting back from out of town. So
Okay.
luckily I didn't have a shit ton of food or we had Easter plans or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, the worst thing I had to throw out was like a 6-pound tube of dog food, but that was
Ooh.
about it. Yeah, it was like, yeah, we get that fresh pet.
Oh,
My
okay.
dog
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like
yeah. I got you. I got
spoiled.
you.
During Christmas, we went to Italy and she stayed up at my mom's. They're feeding her like gourmet steak every night. Like I'm just like, am I supposed to follow this up?
Yeah, right. For sure. For
Before
sure.
transfer the fresh pet. But so yeah, man. So just talk about rebuilding a little bit. Like, what are some things that you kind of been like focused on or rebuilding this time around? And I feel like you learn something every time you kind of put in this situation where you kind of have to start over again, right? Is there any kind of different angle or maybe something you're able to expedite even?
Like as far as,
Just building clientele again and
oh,
just like starting over, new shop.
honestly, like it
How
that was
about
one
being
of,
yourself?
yeah, yeah, like that was one of the things like I was kind of worried about was like, you know, gaining clientele and like maintaining clientele.
Mhm.
Like sometimes, when I first moved out here, I had the barber school I went to back home, like they didn't really do a lot of scissor work. So like a lot of the cuts I was doing back home, skin fades, tapers, but it wasn't a lot of like comb overs or, stuff like that. So I moved
Yeah,
out here.
look backs.
Yeah. So I moved out here and, I start seeing like this dude, oh yeah, I got a comb over skin fade, like hard part. And I'm like, I do the skin fade. And he's like, yeah, can you take a little off the top? And I'm just like, uh, you know what I mean? Like, scissors, what are those? But
Yeah.
so, like, for the first couple of weeks, I'd come home at night and, like, my lady, she'd make fun of me, but, I'd be on YouTube
Yeah.
and I'd, constantly, I'd switch from YouTube to the Notes app. I'd,
Yeah.
okay, this, just, I pretty much taught myself, the basics of scissor work,
Yeah, just some
off
more
of
advanced
YouTube.
stuff. Yeah.
There were times where I've done cuts and, it's one of those where it's like, "Oh, man, I wish I had that one back." You know what I mean? But, like,
Right.
they come back and, "Oh, I loved it, whatever, whatever," and it's like, "Okay, well," and then you got another chance to,
Yeah. I
gotta
always say this is
do
only
it
gonna
better
get better,
before.
man.
Yeah, so, I
This is
mean,
only gonna get better.
it's been a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be, it's a lot of, like, being yourself, like you said, just, but one thing I think is, like, you have to, like, if you have issues going on, like, outside of work or what, you gotta be able to, like, leave that stuff at the door because, you know, you could give the greatest haircut, but if you just stone-faced and, like, zero personality,
Right.
people, they're gonna pay for the haircut and you're never gonna see them again. You know
Yeah,
what I
you have to
mean?
provide an overall experience
Yeah, right. Yeah, I
more
mean,
than just a
there's a
haircut.
handful of people where it's like, they don't care. Just,
Yeah.
good cut. I don't care if we gotta talk, like,
Right.
cool, but like you said, nowadays, especially like you're paying for the experience. So it's like
No doubt.
you want to be able to, talk, have a little personality, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's sometimes I feel like, I've been able to build clientele pretty fast every time I've
Yeah.
moved.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just kind of give myself ways to not give myself credit. Like,
Yeah. I'm
I
the
was
same
just
way.
like, I guess
I'm the
if you just like be yourself, then, you're going to pull those people in like you did every time.
Don't
So,
second guess yourself. You know what you're doing.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You
Right.
know,
And
yeah.
we're
And like,
constantly calibrating and fixing little things and making tiny tweaks. And,
yeah, for sure.
that's something like back to the shear cutting. Like I had to get a lot faster in the
Oh, yeah.
shop
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
work in because we have a $50 30-minute haircut, like
Yeah.
a regular haircut. And
Uh-huh.
sometimes you get these 30-minute haircuts and it's not so regular.
Yeah.
and it's
That used to
like,
be one thing. Like people would call the shop I used to work at, and they'd be like, "Oh, how much is a haircut?" It's like,
yeah,
okay, well, what kind of haircut? Like, oh,
yeah,
just a regular haircut. Do me
right.
a favor while we're on the phone. Go to Google, type in regular men's haircut, and tell me how many different haircuts come up. Like,
That's a good point.
so
Yeah, basically we call regular anything it's like above shoulder length as long, and then down to a 1 is the
yeah,
shortest we'll go on the sides to be
yeah,
considered a regular haircut.
yeah,
And like, you get all these regulars stacked back to back, like you're gonna have a problem. You're gonna eventually be running
hmm
behind. And so
hmm
like, I can't beat myself up about like running behind because I'm running my yap,
yeah.
retaining or,
It's
keeping
like
this
a happy medium.
relationship
You gotta.
good.
I'm a talker too, so like
Yeah.
it's one of the and I still got to work on it to this day. But I mean,
Yeah.
like talking and working at the same time, like
Yeah.
so
It's
you
tough.
got to find that fine line to where like, okay, shut up and cut hair. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's funny when my next client comes in, I almost like stop talking. And I'm almost
Uh,
like, so I never did go with that walk-in thing where there'd be like 6 people watching me cut hair. And I'm just like witnessing my boss like be the fastest hair cutter on that side of the
it's
Mississippi.
it's
And I'm like,
that
Jesus.
really like the first time, like when I first started working at that shop, that really messed with me because it's like you got
Yeah.
people just staring. They're literally like we had TVs and stuff and whatever, but like you get to a point where you feel like people are just staring at you.
Yeah.
And like I used to have to tell myself, like, listen, if they're gonna leave, they're gonna leave. You know what I mean? Like, don't
Yeah.
sacrifice the quality of this cut because you're afraid the next one's gonna walk out.
That's a good
You know
rule
what
to
I
go
mean?
by.
So over time, like, and I had a coworker over there, and I used to stress to him because he'd be like, "Man, like this shit stresses me out. It gives me anxiety." Like,
Mhm.
and I was, because we'd have days where we'd 4, 5, 6 people waiting, and
Yeah.
it's like I'm over there just doing my thing, and he's like stressed out, and it's like, bro, you gotta just, if they're gonna leave, they're gonna leave. You just
Yeah.
can't.
Quality is always
Yeah,
gonna be
sure.
more
For sure.
valuable in the long
Sure.
run.
And
Like,
it's just people don't. It's like people don't understand. Like you
no, I
walk
get
into
it.
a walk-in shop on a Saturday, and it's like, oh, what do you mean I gotta wait?
Yeah.
It's a Saturday.
And then half of the time you're trying to speed up, you're gonna create more work for yourself. It's gonna take even longer, and
Right.
then you're gonna be pissed
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway.
You lose a
They just should
client,
have did it right
a
the
bad
first time
review,
around. Right.
whatever. Like,
Yeah, and that's a domino effect into hell.
yeah, yeah.
So, all
For
right,
sure.
man. Well, I mean, is there anything else you're kind of working on right now? Anything you got coming soon? You're just grinding,
Yeah, man. Just
keeping the family
yeah,
rolling.
getting this house in order, man. We're still living on the majority of stuff's
So
unpacked and
tell
stuff.
me, so you live in Santan Valley in
No, I'm
East
in Mesa.
Mesa,
I believe it's East Mesa. I think I'm not
East
really
Mesa.
100% sure, but
Okay, so you
yeah,
bought a house or you leased a
leased
house.
leased the house. Yeah, yeah, yep,
Okay, so you're kind of getting it all together.
yeah.
So
We got
that's
all
new
our
work since you've
furniture and
been in that.
stuff, and we had to go clear out our storage unit. We had like pictures and all that other stuff in there. So I started decorating last night, and we got some stuff. Hey, it's got to go up in the living room and all over the place. So it's just picture
Gotcha.
frames and boxes all over the place right now. But
You ever thought about what's your retirement plan for barbering? You gotta get 401k or something, man.
yeah, I actually
IRA.
I went to the I was talking to my coworker about that the other day, but I went to the bank and I actually talked to one of the bankers about like options and stuff like that. So yeah, for sure, I got to get to a point where I got enough.
Did you have anything to roll over from the corrections job?
So because it was a New York State retirement, I wasn't able to like roll it over into anything out of state. So I ended up just taking it and using it for
You
the
took it all
move.
out.
Yeah. So just
Yeah.
trying to stack right now because they had explained to me like I need a certain amount to even open, like a Roth or something like that. So I don't know anything about all that. And he's like, well, you can start with nothing, and but you're the one that picks the investments. And I was like, man, listen, I remember when that whole Robin Hood thing popped off, and that stressed me out enough. I'm not gonna.
Yeah. You could do one on Robinhood. You could put whatever you want into it, but the thing is, like, I don't know what to invest in
Exactly.
on the
I
Roth
got
IRA.
enough. I got enough to worry about with my kid and stuff
Right.
going on here, and I don't.
Yeah,
And
I
all that
haven't
stuff.
started, but I've been talking a lot about it, and it's
Yeah.
funny. I haven't done it myself, but I need
Yeah.
to.
So like I have like a set goal. Like, okay, I need to get this amount saved,
Yeah,
and then once I do, that's gonna go, obviously into one to where I can have
that'll
somebody
build
else,
itself.
somebody else handle it because I don't know
Right.
what the hell stocks and you know cryptocurrency and
Yeah, don't do that.
yeah,
Don't do that one.
no, no
Oh
thanks.
shit, Chris. I appreciate you coming on
Yeah,
here, my man.
absolutely, man. Appreciate
On
you having me
the
for sure.
Tuesday
Sure.
night edition of the Your
Yeah,
Barber podcast.
yeah, for sure.
You work tomorrow?
Yeah, so tomorrow's my half day. Yeah, so
Nice.
I'll go in. I got my son in the morning, just hang out, chill at the house. And then I go in around noon to 6. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday all day. Well, Saturday I took like a half day because of UFC. So I have a little get together at the house and UFC
Nice.
club.
There you
So
go, man.
that'll be
Before
fun.
we close out, what do you think of your Bills, man? What we thinking this year? I know they had to get cap compliant and cut
Yeah,
all these guys,
and listen,
all their whole secondary, almost their whole veteran secondary.
it's hard, man.
It's hard to let go of some guys.
It's
We had to
just
let
like,
go of one. I was like, shit, man. This guy's been on the team for 8 years.
yeah, it like for me, like I get it, there's cap, so we gotta obviously get under the cap and all that. And
I didn't know you couldn't make a trade during
Mhm.
that before the new league year to get cap compliant. It's all
Oh,
has to be
cool.
done through cuts and restructures. You can't make a
Oh, I
trade.
didn't know that either.
Yeah, so when you're cutting these guys, you're like, why the fuck we get nothing from it?
Yeah.
But that's
So
why.
so I kind of saw the Poyer one coming.
Yeah, he's getting up
Um,
there.
and I
Might
wasn't
though.
as much as everybody was surprised that he went to Miami. I was like, they wanted him last year, and he lives
Mm,
out there.
yeah,
So, but the Trey White, that one hurt
that one hurt. I
for
know that one
sure.
hurt.
I knew Gabe was gonna leave. And then the Diggs thing, like
Diggs is wild.
I don't know what to think,
What
because
they get for Diggs?
like a second round pick. They gave up
That's
Diggs.
it?
They gave up Diggs and 2 picks to get a second. And here's the kicker, right? We end up paying more to get rid of him than it would have costed us to keep him. I think it
He must
cost
have
us.
been a problem. He must have been
That's
wanting
like
out
so
for a minute.
all this time, like I'm sitting here, hearing like Stephen A and all these dudes talk about, oh yeah, he wants out, he wants this, he wants that. And it's like every time he does an interview, up until recently, it was like, nah, like Josh is my boy, like whatever.
Just being classy about it a little bit.
Yeah, but like the big thing was the contract. And I was like,
Yeah.
who's gonna trade for that contract?
Yeah.
He's still got 4 years left. Like nobody's gonna, and he's 31.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna trade for that. So I'm like, even if he wants out, like good luck, because nobody wants.
Yeah.
But
He'll never live out the rest of that deal wherever
no,
it is.
and now there's reports coming out that him and Josh had a little rift after the Jets
Right.
game week
Which
1.
you don't even know if it's true.
Right.
You know.
So, but it does say a lot to me, at least, like the fact that we ate as much cap as we did. We paid more to get rid of
Yeah.
you than to
Paid
keep
to
you.
get rid
So
of him.
something was going on. But like I was mad at first. My girl's aunt,
Yeah.
my girl's aunt and uncle are big Bills fans. So like I woke up that morning, I had a text from her, like it was a picture of the TV.
Yeah.
It was trade Diggs, the Texans, and I was like, I had to zoom in. I was like, this has got to be a joke.
Yeah. It's
And
like,
then
what are we doing? This is
yeah, and then my buddy hit me and he was like, man, listen, like he's like, look at like the last half of the year. Josh still put up crazy numbers and Diggs was
Yeah.
non-existent.
Yeah.
He's like, so I mean, yeah, it sucks that, we're losing him, but I think my big issue with it is like you sent him to an AFC team who was 2 wins away from the Super Bowl. Like,
Yeah.
send him to Dallas to go play with his brother. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Wait,
mean?
where did he go again?
Houston, the Texans.
Oh my god, dude. Houston is like
Yeah, so they
just
got
stacking
Stroud,
guys,
they got
dude.
Dell, they
Houston's
got Nico
going
Collins.
for it.
Yeah, man, like so.
Joe Mixon.
And then
Yeah.
they wiped the last 3 years of his deal. So he's playing for 1 year and then he's a free agent.
That's right. Which is like a win-win for everybody. I feel like.
Yeah.
Shit.
But I mean, my big thing is like, I think like I like McDermott. I do. I like what he stands for. Like I like, what he's done for the
He
team.
rebuilt the whole thing.
Yeah, but you get into these playoff games and these big moments, and it's like
Yeah.
you shit your pants. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Do you think they may have missed their window with the teams they had, and now with what they got coming this year?
I don't know, man. It's like because you get some of these teams that come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So it's like
It'll be interesting to see kind of what they do
yeah.
without some of the guys they've had. That sometimes these overpaid vets can be hindering to a team, and now they
But I
can kind
mean,
of throw more darts at the board and
yeah. Then
so
like
much what.
my big thing is like back to McDermott thing is like he's starting to give me like hints of like Marvin Lewis when he was in Cincy.
Right.
With Andy Dalton, they'd go 14-2,
He was there a
13-3.
long time too, Marvin Lewis.
And then they'd get to the playoffs and they'd lose first game.
Yeah.
And they'd keep giving this guy extensions. It's
Yeah.
like you don't get paid to get to the play. You're supposed to win it all. Like
One of the years they got in the playoffs, was that one of the games Carson Palmer got hurt? Or was that in the regular season when he went down? Remember when he blew out his knee?
I don't remember.
He got hurt. I think it may have been in a playoff game, and like John Kitna had to come in. And then that was that.
I'm kidding. No. But I think there's a lot of Bills fans that were so used to being mediocre or like being bad
that just having a good regular season is
like
enough.
you know what? No, at least we're winning the division. We're going to the playoffs. It's like, yeah, I get that, after 20 years or whatever. But that's not the goal,
Yeah.
But you also got to look at it like, is the grass greener? We get rid of McDermott. Who's the option?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's kind of in vogue to get these young, hot, like offensive coaches today, but it's just like you can't be a copycat when it's just been copied so many damn times. So maybe having the old school defensive coaches, like maybe something that still is needed.
He's just got to stop making decisions during the game. Like
Right.
13 seconds, like that was.
You can get him a little more help in there for that kind of thing. Upstairs, especially.
Some of that I think is like an ego thing. I think he's like, no, it's my team. No, I'm gonna make it. It's like, but bro, you ran a fake punt on 4th and 5 in your own territory at home in the playoffs.
That's some fucking
what are you
Chargers
doing?
coach Staley shit.
What are you doing? Give the ball to Josh. If that's what you're gonna do, just give the ball to Josh. Let him, do what he does. And if he doesn't get it, cool. But and I like DeMar Hamlin, but that's who you're relying on 4th and 5.
Yeah, you can't do that. Well, Chris, I could sit here all night and talk football with you for sure. But I'll definitely keep in touch, my man. And we're gonna circulate this thing. let
sure.
people in on your story and your move and your new situation and everything, man.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you for coming on tonight,
Yeah.
Chris. Have a blessed night. Enjoy your family,
Appreciate
man.
it, bro. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Thanks for watching another episode of the Your Barber Podcast. New episodes come out weekly on Sunday. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to be notified when new content is posted. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.